Just ahead on CTV News.
A Landover man faces murder charges for allegedly fatally shooting his ex-girlfriend in a domestic violence-related murder. I'm Katara Jones. I'll have all those details coming up on CTV News.
Plus, a police officer is involved in a deadly crash. And we sit down with the new young leaders of the county council. Those stories and more on CTV News, starting now.
Good evening, this is CTV News for July 9th. I'm Michaela Newton. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, Prince George's County Police announced the arrest of a Landover man in connection with his ex-girlfriend's murder. The suspect is 32-year-old Harry Lindsay. CTV's Katara Jones was at the press conference yesterday where police say an argument between Lindsay and the female victim, who is also the mother of his children, turned deadly.
He killed my baby. I can't believe he did this to the mother of his kids.
Emotions were high for Jerice McCarter as she recounts talking to Harry Lindsay just 4 days before Prince George's police say he fatally shot her daughter, 29-year-old Sharita Criswell.
You took her life. You get to go to jail and be free. I'll never get her back. Never get her back.
This all happened at an apartment on the 700 block of Stratford Way last Saturday, July 5th in Landover. When officers arrived, they found Criswell inside an apartment suffering from gunshot wounds. She was pronounced dead on the scene. Police and County Executive Aisha Braveboy, who was recently the state's attorney for Prince George's, is calling this a domestic violence-related homicide.
I handled several of these cases every single year, families who were victimized by the death of a loved one. But it was those deaths that occurred at the hands of people who the victim knew and was supposed to be loved and cared for by the victim that hurt the most.
Police say on June 16th, Lindsay was arrested for allegedly assaulting and strangling Criswell, but he was ultimately released from jail.
In cases involving strangulation in particular, because of the lethality involved, we request routinely no bond. And oftentimes we receive a no bond status for the defendant. In this case, that didn't happen. I think that our system has to do a much better job of understanding victims and victimhood and what's needed in order to protect victims.
Prince George's police say there have been a total of 10 domestic violence-related homicides so far in the county.
So please, if you are suffering, you do not have to suffer in silence. I ask that you please reach out so we can get you the resources you need to help you be removed from an unhealthy situation or relationship.
Lindsay faces first and second-degree murder charges. He's being held on a no-bond status. Katara Jones, CTV News.
All right, thanks for that report, Katara. Criswell's family says the former couple were together for about 10 years and shared 2 young daughters. However, Lindsay and Criswell were not together at the time of her murder. A GoFundMe page has already raised more than $6,600 to help with Criswell's funeral costs and counseling for her daughters. To donate, visit GoFundMe.com and type in Sharita Criswell in the search bar. And a Clinton man was struck and killed Monday night by an off-duty police officer. The crash happened shortly before 9 on northbound Route 301 and Missouri Avenue. Investigation shows the deceased driver, identified as Carlton Herndon, was attempting to cross 301 when he was struck by a Ford truck. The driver of the truck is identified as Anthony Coleman, a Prince George's police officer. Now, state police believe speed and alcohol may have contributed to the crash. Coleman had also refused medical treatment at the scene. PGPD says Coleman is now suspended with pay. And Prince George's County is updating its hiring rules for police and fire jobs, and it's all about cannabis. Yesterday, during the last county council session before recess, the council passed CB 16 that says applicants won't be automatically disqualified just for testing positive for cannabis during pre-employment screenings. County leaders say the change helps take a more well-rounded look at candidates, especially as departments face staffing shortages. And big changes in leadership for the state. Former Delegate Darryl Barnes is now stepping into a new role as chair of the Prince George's County Planning Board after a unanimous county council vote backed his nomination. Meanwhile, Meg Kimmel has been named president and CEO of the Maryland Food Bank after more than a decade with the organization. And in retirement news, Maryland State Treasurer Derek Davis is now chairing the Maryland Saves Board, which helps workers at small and mid-sized businesses automatically save for emergencies and retirement through payroll deductions. And Prince George's County politics are now being led by a new generation. Just 4 years ago, there were no millennials on the county council, and today, nearly half the seats are held by younger leaders, bringing fresh energy and a different style of governing. In 2020, millennials were absent from the Prince George's County Council. Now, 5 out of 11 seats are filled by that same generation of leaders. Council Chair Edward Burrows, the youngest to ever serve in that role, says he got his start in county student government.
What got me initially very interested in joining the school board is because I was in county student government. I was able to visit so many of the other high schools across the county, and I was able to see that they had a lot more resources than my high school. And those disparities still exist throughout the county today. As it relates to becoming chair, I can't believe it. You know, I used to be an intern for the county council back when I was in high school. And so to now chair the body that I was an intern in not that long ago means a lot to me.
For council members Wanika Fisher and Crystal Oriata, they say it was their family that got them involved in politics.
Being a first-generation American, I saw a lot of how policy impacted my family, bad policy in South Africa, and particularly with apartheid. And my grandfather was a huge organizer for the anti-apartheid movement, and my uncle was killed, and eventually we ended up here in the United States, and I was born here. So I think politics has just been more than politics. Policy has been a huge part of my family's story.
My parents, they would talk about politics at the dinner table as early as middle school. I was a fellow for both Obama's campaign and Hillary's campaign, and then went into organizing with organizations like Progressive Maryland. And it was after Trump's election the first time that I decided to get really focused locally.
Meanwhile, Councilmember Walla Blagay got her start through Young Dems, a youth-led political organization where she met Chair Burrows.
Looking to get involved in politics, I decided to change my focus from medicine. I was going to be a doctor, and I moved to decide that I wanted to be in politics. I do think that overall it's time that we become a part of the conversation, because the norms of the generations before us, such as the boomers, or maybe even people say Generation X, but really the boomers, is when I got involved in politics, that was the point of the young delegate that I was working for. His whole thing was that it was a very older group that was controlling the political scene in the county and the state. And that was the boomers, actually. And it still remains that way, almost 20 years later.
And a newcomer, Shayla Adams Stafford, recently sworn in as council member for District 5, brings her experience previously serving on the Prince George's County Board of Education.
Young people are stepping up to leadership, and there's a transition. And I think it's time. I think it's time for us to pass the baton to the next generation to get into policy making.
Now, as more young residents get involved in local politics, they believe the county's leadership will continue to evolve. And switching to Montgomery County, an 80-year-old man is arrested over the weekend and charged with the first-degree murder of his wife. On your screen is Vivian Nation, who was arrested Saturday at his Leisure World apartment. Inside, police found his wife, Beverly Fletcher, suffering from multiple stab wounds, blunt force trauma, and found a hammer laying across her neck. She was pronounced dead on the scene, and on Monday, a judge ordered Nation to be held without bond. He will also undergo a competency evaluation to see if he is fit to stand trial. Nation is due back in court next week. And the deadly floodwaters in Kerr County, Texas, has shed a light on the importance of early flood warnings. Neighboring Montgomery County says it has 35 flood sensors in flood-prone areas, low-lying roads, and hazard dams throughout the jurisdiction. The county's flood sensor project is in partnership with the Department of Homeland Security and IntelliSense, the sensor manufacturer. The flood sensors automatically detect rising water levels and provides early warning of high water levels and flooding. And a dispute is growing between Governor Wes Moore and the Maryland General Assembly over how to boost clean energy and cut utility bills. Lawmakers called their 2025 energy work some of the most important in decades, but Moore said it didn't go far enough. He proposed a bill for 100% clean energy statewide, and Senate President Bill Ferguson pushed back, citing high costs that would impact ratepayers. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Michaela Newton. Still to come.
So long to kicking your shoes off at the airport. I'm Bryce Parker. We'll give you those details coming up on CTV News.
Everyone likes rooting for their favorite team with some friends. But if you plan on drinking, don't drive. Designate a sober driver or schedule a rideshare for a safe ride home. Be the make a plan driver. Be the driver who saves lives.
I wish people knew that when you live in a small town like mine, it's much harder to find friends with common interests, especially ones my age. I often feel really alone.
Same here. Seems like every time we finally settle somewhere, I have to pack up and move again. By the time I make a friend, a real friend, I have to say goodbye to them.
I totally get it. I live in a big city, but it can feel just as lonely. It's tough, but it gets easier.
Honestly, I totally get what you're going through. It's nice to know that you feel the same.
You enjoyed my story. I really enjoyed your story as well.
Welcome back. There's a big change to airport security checkpoints, and CTV's Bryce Parker is at the video wall with more.
So long to kicking off your shoes at the airport. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announced yesterday that all domestic travelers can keep their shoes on at TSA checkpoints effective immediately. As the shoes off policy comes to an end, long wait times at TSA checkpoints are expected to come to an end as well. The Department of Homeland Security believes that with modern technology, they can still ensure safety while still allowing comfort for airline travelers. Now, this is just a singular part of President Donald Trump's vision for his, quote, golden age of American travel, getting rid of a policy that has been in place since 2006, when a man unsuccessfully attempted to bomb a plane with explosives that he hid in his shoes. Now, 19 years later, all domestic travelers will get to enjoy something that only travelers with TSA PreCheck have been granted until yesterday. Now, the end of the shoes off policy is just the latest change in airline travel in 2025. If you remember back in May, travelers were required to obtain a real ID for domestic travel. Fast forward to earlier this month, TSA announced its Serve with Honor, Travel with Ease program, providing benefits to uniformed service members and their families. And now all travelers can keep their shoes on when traveling domestically.
All right, Bryce, thanks for that report. Meanwhile, a Laurel man is in custody after being linked to an illegal Super Bowl car rally in Philadelphia. On your screen is 19-year-old Yariel Fuentes Reyes. He was arrested last week after police searched his home and found an unserialized handgun. In Maryland, he is already charged with misdemeanor possession of a firearm by a minor and possession of a firearm without a serial number. Now he will be extradited to Pennsylvania and face several more misdemeanor and felony charges related to the car rally. And a Prince George's County man who was given a second chance now leads a county agency tasked with helping those trying to get their lives on track following incarceration. Byron Scott has our story.
So the division is here to aid and assist in our community.
Alonzo Turner Bay has one of the most important jobs in Prince George's County.
And we're going to present all the resources needed to you to be successful. All you got to do is not give up.
He leads the county's Returning Citizen Affairs Division. His mission is to help people who have been locked up find their societal footing.
Some of our citizens may come home after doing 20, 30, 40 years in prison, and they may not have no one. These services are the services that are needed and that are viable and important. So it is our job, duty, and obligation to make sure they have that safety net so that they don't go back, that they don't harm our community.
Turner Bay was recently appointed to the position by County Executive Aisha Braveboy.
A lot of men and women who come home, they know my story. They know me. I've done 31 and a half years inside the belly of the beast. So when a lot of people come home, they hear my name, oh, I know him. And by knowing me and knowing my story and knowing what I've been through, they can trust me. They know that I'm gonna lead them in the right direction, that I'm gonna give them the correct information that can help them be successful.
As director of the division, Turner Bay spends a lot of time at the Bridge Center at Adams House in Suitland, where returning citizens can get help.
We can get you food stamps, we can get you Medicaid, we can help you get, for those who don't have, we can help you get your birth certificate, Social Security card, mental health treatment, therapy, counseling, anger management.
One of his goals is to help returning citizens find a job. He advocates on their behalf with employers.
But there's an incentive program that we are putting together to incentivize businesses to hire people from our disadvantaged population.
Turner Bay encourages returning citizens to reach out as soon as they get out.
We all may have made a mistake. Once we have paid our debt to society, whatever it may be, in Prince George's County, we want you to know we are here to aid and assist you to become a member of our community and give you the support and resources that you need to become an asset to our community.
Byron Scott, CTV News.
Well, as children spend more time at home during the summer months, a child safety advocate warns about the dangers lurking on the internet. According to reports, Callahan Walsh, a child safety advocate, recommends that parents have conversations with their children about being safe while online. Walsh also says as kids get older, the conversations about online safety should evolve, and he also encourages parents to understand the apps and games children use on their cell phones and computers. Now, Walsh's father is the co-founder of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which was created after his son was abducted. And the U.S. Supreme Court lifts a lower court's injunction that blocked the president's DOJ agency in restructuring the federal government. The one-page order allows the plan to move forward. For now, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented, saying it could fundamentally restructure the government, and unions had sued to stop the cuts, and a California judge had paused the plan, but the White House argued it was about streamlining, not restructuring. And sobering news for the state's Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. Labor Secretary Portia Wu told members of the Joint Committee on Unemployment Oversight that the trust fund faces potentially solvency issues that could worsen in the wake of massive federal layoffs or a recession. Now, Wu assured lawmakers that the fund currently meets the federal solvency requirements, and officials say some state projections anticipate as many as 29,000 workers could lose their jobs as a result of Trump's cuts. The briefing is the first in a series leading up to the next legislative session. And cuts in clean energy sources are on the way. President Trump's big, beautiful bill is taking aim at residential solar tax credit. The Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act included a 30% tax credit for rooftop residential solar that had extended into the next decade. But Trump labeled these tax credits as part of a green new scam that contributes towards a globalist climate agenda. Billions of dollars have been invested in clean energy practices, firms and companies now expecting mass layoffs and job losses. And still to come on CTV News, summer savings are heating up. After the break, find out where you can get some scorching deals.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. You may not even know you have it, but you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand. With early diagnosis, you can change the outcome and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
The Kettering Community Center is a space for local residents to host different kinds of events. And after several decades, the organization just got an upgrade. Located in Upper Marlboro, Kettering serves the residents and hosts events like birthdays or graduation parties, baby showers, and even retirement parties. The organization was given a $500,000 grant 2 years ago. And after almost a year of construction, Kettering is back with a new kitchen and number of other upgrades, giving the space a completely new look.
This place is beautiful, you know, and we're just so grateful again to former Senator Melanie Griffith and the District 25 team that now that Senator Nick Charles has taken over. He helped us funnel through, you know, the process, and Delegate Tolles, Delegate Denise Robert, and Delegate Ken Roberson, who is part of the District 25 team, and we are very grateful.
Well, one local supermarket chain is teaming up with the county school district to fight against student meal debt. Giant and PGCPS are hosting their annual Nourishing Our Youth Roundup program. Shoppers are invited to round up their grocery bills to support PGCPS food and nutrition programs. For the past 2 years, Giant has raised more than $1.6 million through the initiative. The Roundup program will run from now until July 31st. And summer is heating up, and so are the bargains being offered by some major retailers. Amazon's annual Prime Day event kicked off yesterday and runs through Friday. Sunday, Target set in motion Circle Week, where shoppers can get up to 40% off tech and gaming. And it's never too early to shop for the next school year. Shoppers can also expect 30% off select backpacks, school uniforms, and supplies. Today, Walmart deals started and will run through the 13th. Both Walmart and Target savings events are open to all customers, whereas Amazon Prime Days are exclusive to Prime members only. And if you're a frequent Costco shopper, you might want to double check some recent purchases, as the company has issued several recalls for items and urging customers not to use them. For those who like to host parties and get down in the kitchen, this 90-quart igloo cooler is on recall notice because of risk of fingertip pinching. And this Ninja Foodie pressure cooker and air fryer is recalled due to reports of the lid being opened while pressurized. And if you were thinking about taking a road trip, double check your tires. Tires from both Michelin and Bridgestone were recalled. But for the full list and more information about the recalls, visit Costco's website. And don't move anywhere. Simon Buggs is here with our Wednesday sports page.
Don't go anywhere, boxing fans, because you're going to love this story as I got the chance to interview local fighter Larry Rosillo. We'll be right back.
My opponent is completely disregarding almost half of my arguments which I respond to.
Communities must step up
Laws
and
alone
protest
cannot
against this
stop a
normalizing.
bullet.
Well, I completely disagree.
Point of inquiry, do you guys even realize that the #1 killer of children and teens are gun injuries?
You're probably starting to realize now, this is not a debate.
There is no adult in this earth that wants children to die.
I worry for my kids.
The Sugar Ray Leonard Boxing Center has been home to many fighters over the years that were all looking to perfect their craft, including current professional boxer Larry Rocio. The 34-year-old story is an inspiring one, and I was able to catch up with and talk to him about his life's journey to get to where he is today. And he first touched on how he got started in the world of boxing.
My mother put me in the boxing probably when I was 9 years old. When I was 9 years old, she actually brought me down to this gym right here, and I met Mr. Hinton, Julius Hinton. He was the head coach in this gym, and I came in this gym. She introduced me to him. She said, "Man, you want to box?" Brought me down here. I met Mr. Hinton. Mr. Hinton came to me and said, "Son, in this gym, I'm your father, your mother, your grandfather, and grandmother." He said, "So when you come in this gym, you got to listen to me." As soon as we got in the car, I told my mother, I don't want to box with him. I don't want to box with Mr. Hinton. So she took me down round one gymnasium, which the head coach was Adrian Davis at the time. And I started at that gym. I had my first fight 2000 against Emmanuel Taylor, and ever since that's how I started.
And when Rocio turned 18, he was ready to make the jump from an amateur to a professional fighter. But he had trouble booking professional bouts, and as a result, he turned to street life. And the Maryland native revealed to me what made him finally want to step into the ring again.
What really got me back to boxing was actually a year of jail time. I was locked up. Over that course of time that I left boxing, my mom came and visited me in Upper Marlboro jail. I was locked up for a little year, and she was like, "Man, Dusty Harrison boxing, Mike Reed's boxing, they getting money." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "These my buddies that I went to nationals with, and I could fight, like we all fight together." So I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna come home, I'm gonna box again." And I got sentenced to, I got my time. This is around January when she's coming to visit me. I got out September the 1st, 2013, and I had my first fight October 26th on the Tie-Bar night card. And I was so excited because I just was in prison and I heard all about all my friends. So going into that fight, I just wanted to do my best and just and get out of the streets, to be honest.
The Cuban assassin definitely did his best, winning his first professional fight against Louis Teal via a unanimous decision in 2013. And the success wouldn't stop there, as the welterweight won his next 6 fights to move to a 7-0 record from the span of 2013 to 2014. But his career came to a halt after Rocio was shot in the head in 2015 and was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison due to being found guilty of possession of a firearm the following year. And that time he spent away helped transform him into the person he is today.
Prison really was the time to rebuild myself and notice my capabilities, to be honest. I noticed what I was capable of, which is not giving up, resistance, and I prepared for my release the whole time. I wrote a book, I worked out, I made plans, and now I'm home doing everything that I planned in prison. So it was like, I turned it into a college campus, to be honest, because there's nothing else to do, but you either gonna better yourself or you just gonna come home worse. I use that to better myself.
All right, stay tuned for part 2 of Simon's interview with Rocio tomorrow right here on CTV News. And let's get a look at our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight we'll have more rain, and we're still under a flood watch until midnight. Tomorrow we'll have a chance of showers before 11 a.m. It'll be 85 degrees. Friday, another day of storms. We'll have a high of 88 and a low of 73. Saturday will be a bit nicer. We're going to have a high of 90, but rain isn't expected until 2 p.m. And calling all inspiring educators. Tonight, PGCPS is hosting a hiring palooza. PGCPS is one of the nation's largest school districts and is nationally recognized for college and career readiness programs. The job fair will be held at Wise High School from 4 to 6 p.m. But for more information, visit the school district's website at hr.recruitment@pgcps.org. That's all the time we have for CTV News. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good night.